Hello everybody and welcome again to chesslecture.com. This is International Master Dave Vigorito. Today I'm going to look at a game from the U.S. Championship, which I believe won like a best game prize from Grandmaster Sam Shankland, who I thought was kind of like maybe like a dark horse for the tournament. Maybe wasn't going to win it, but you know, very dangerous, does not lose too much. But he ended up kind of having a mediocre tournament for his standards. So in this game he's playing kind of the unusual player Timur Gareev, who plays a lot of really strange stuff, and in this game played some really weird things. But we actually still managed to get, relatively speaking, into like some normal theory. So the game was the Schliemann variation of the Ruy Lopez: e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5, f5. So very odd if you haven't seen it before, but nowadays kind of accepted as a real opening, especially considering like Timur Rajabov played this quite a bit at the highest level. Even Carlsen played it a few times, and it actually seems sound enough. That wasn't the case maybe like 8 or 10 years ago. I think I even did like a lecture series called something like Taking Out the Trash, where I tried to bust these odd openings, and this one's been revived a bit. One good thing for black is that he can get this rather easily. There's no exchange variation. You're getting your position on move 3, and there's really only two lines that have to be studied: knight c3 and d3. Oh, and there's some branches within there, but white doesn't have a whole lot of choice. A lot of players I've seen, because I've had some students play this. People do like bishop c6, dc, ef, e4, queen e2, queen e7, knight d4, and then black has this very nice little move, knight h6, and then he'll play knight takes f5 next move and have a good open position for the bishops. And if something like d3, you just take here anyway, takes, and black is already much better here, and if white continues to simplify, we end up with a unusual fork. So that's how like a lot of people I've seen like will meet this if they really just don't know what's going on. Of course, Shankland will not fall into that category, and he plays a very fashionable line, relatively speaking, for this opening that's not considered in some of the main books on this opening. So he plays d3, which looks very quiet, but it's considered one of the critical tests. Fe, de, knight f6, castles. Knight c3 could be met with bishop b4, and black will, because of the pressure on this pawn, he'll double the pawn. So even something like castles, takes. So you don't have to go pawn hunting with knight e4. You could even just play d6, and it's like super solid for black. Black will castle, maybe play knight h5 to f4, maybe play queen e8 to g6 or h5. It's just like very comfortable, I think, for black. So it's better for white to castle. And here, too, I think this is just kind of crazy because the position's too open. So bishop c5. And now there's quite a bit of choice for white. There's three main lines. He can play knight c3, like castles, and then bishop g5, intending knight d5. And usually in this line, after like d6, knight d5, black will end up with some like doubled, or well, actually not doubled, but just like his pawn will have to play g takes f6. But he'll have the bishop pair and some active play. It's probably quite acceptable for black. The other main move is queen d3, which stops castling, because if castles, queen c4 check just wins this piece. So black, needs to play like d6, and this is kind of a long theoretical line that's maybe kind of drawish in some of the deep theory, like knight c3, bishop d7, some positions like this. White will play knight d5 at some point. But really, in a lot of ways, the critical move is to just take on c6 and eat up this pawn. So, because there's some positions where black can play dc, but here that would be bad because queen takes d8. So bc, knight e5, and castles. So it's very critical because white is just kind of taking a pawn and black just castles, so white actually has a move to spend here. His e-pawn is attacked, so knight to c3, and now d6. So this is kind of like a key move for black. One point is if knight takes c6, which looks the most natural, then queen e8. And there's not really a great place to go. Like if knight a5, there's some good options. Black can play knight g4, which I've seen recommended in a book. I think even stronger is bishop a6, hitting the rook. And if the rook moves, then there's already going to be all kinds of trouble, like on these squares, maybe knight g4, even like queen e5, intending knight g4 at some point. And this is quite dangerous. I can't play knight g4 right away. It's hanging, but the computer will say bishop a6 is even stronger than the theoretical move. So, all right, so where else can the knight go? Like maybe knight d4, and then knight e4. And basically we have this like open position, you know, after something like knight e4, queen e4, like c3, where it's considered that black has like pretty good compensation. It's like a wide open position and he has the bishop pair. I'm not saying black's better, but in the middle game black's position is maybe even easier to play. White's extra pawn won't be felt for quite a while. So this move d6 is kind of the key. Now the main theoretical move here is knight d3, and then there's bishop to d4 is usually played. Instead of bishop b6, and then knight e2. Queen e1 is also interesting, knight e2, then bishop to b6, and again the e-pawn is attacked, so white will usually play like bishop g5, and just like take this knight, like bishop g5, queen e8, bishop f6, rook f6, and this actually was played in a couple Carlsen games, one where he was white and one where he was black, like after knight g3. He had a game with white against Rajabov where Rajabov played bishop a6, and then later Carlsen himself played queen to f7. Again, we have a position that's white is up a pawn, but black has active play in the bishop pair. And at the highest level, basically, the games I've mentioned, white has not been able to prove anything. So in this game, Shanklin plays a move that's not in some of the books that I've seen on this opening, and this move has become kind of popular. And the move is knight a4. So instead of retreating, he makes a move to attack the bishop to make sure he's going to get this bishop. So all right, you can't really take on e5 and